Welcome back. This is a money show, plain and simple, just money. But it's also about common sense. And from time to time, we've highlighted some pretty hypocritical things that the government spends a lot of your hard-earned tax dollars on. They want us to embrace solar energy, yet they contract out the mining of the rare earth materials to outside entities, some of which are not our friends. It just doesn't make sense. But when you see the amount of money that we are spending to defend the border, the Ukrainian border, you have to shake your head. Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky tweeted out a stark reminder of just where we are in the journey to defend the so-called democracy of Ukraine. Now, we are not Putin sympathizers by any means at all. He's an evil tyrant. We just want Americans to know how much of your hard-earned money is being funneled to that arena. While our border is weak, our national petroleum reserves are low, and while our troop recruitment is seriously lacking, Congressman Massie says this pallet is stacked with $1 million. Now imagine a giant boat with 1,000 of these $1 million pallets. Now imagine 100 of those boats, each with 1,000 pallets, each with $1 million. It adds up to $100 billion, which is what we've sent to Ukraine. Now we're trying to balance too many things while the ground beneath us is seriously unstable. We got to make sure our own country is in order before we go taking care of others, period. Especially with your hard-earned money. My next guest will have some thoughts on this. Please welcome to the show Rebecca Walser of Walser Wealth Management. That's a huge scale, and it puts it into perspective, Rebecca. But I'll also say one thing before I hand it over. Trump wanted $5 billion for our own wall, and so far they've given $100 billion for Ukraine's wall. It doesn't make sense to me.
There's so many things about this that don't make sense. I'm going to jump to Ukraine for just a second, but you know what I thought of, Scott, when we read this meme almost, this tweet is, remember when at the height of coronavirus we had those 100 ships off the port of California that couldn't unload forever, and it just looked like it was never ending? That was just like 103 ships at the peak. So this is 100. Imagine if all of those boats had been stacked with those 1,000 pallets. That's how many boats we're talking about. This is so much money that at this point, we really are in jeopardy of a broken social contract. And that has massive implications. This is a system that is I'm a tax lawyer. I can speak directly to this. This is a voluntary tax system. Not that it's voluntary to pay taxes, but that we file our taxes voluntarily because we are innocent and we submit information to the government. And then it's for them to determine, have you not filed or reported everything? And then it can go from there. And it's usually civil. It can become criminal if it's obviously intentional and fraudulent. So it's really a voluntary tax system that you have to pay taxes into. And it's a social contract that the government will take these taxes and will use them reasonably with reason and rationale. And now that we've again hit the debt limit, Scott, and that we know that we're looking at, Yellen said the X date is June. I think that's not right. I think it's July to September. But the point is that we know there's a date coming that if they don't again raise our debt ceiling, we won't even be able to make the bills that we've already promised. And part of that's probably this $100 billion to Ukraine. And this is such a break of the contract because it is. And your point, you said earlier to me when we were on break, you said, they said we will keep funding Ukraine and however long it takes. Excuse me, this is not even a NATO member, which they've never explained. Why this level of intervention when they're not NATO? And now the tanks that are getting shipped, this is a proxy war that Joe Biden himself said last year, if America ships tanks to Ukraine, it will be known as World War III. Now all of a sudden that's off the table. We're shipping tanks. $100 billion plus is just like it's nothing. And the American people just seem like they're involved in their TikTok and their social media, right. And they're too busy to get off their couches and say, enough is enough.
Right. And I don't even know. We're spreading ourselves way too thin at the exact wrong time. There has never been more of a danger, an imminent danger with what we've got going on with Russia, Ukraine, what we've got going on with China. And now we're spreading ourselves thin with all this money, our strategic oil reserves. I mean, what's next? This is where I'm getting nervous because we're not on solid ground here. I mean, to look after ourselves would be a big enough thing in its own. Now we've spread ourselves so thin we can't help anybody else or ourselves. It's like being on the airplane. When the masks come down, put yours on first so you can help everybody else. If we're not strong, we can't help anybody.
You know, I have a soft heart too, and if I wasn't such a lawyer on the tax world side, I would probably be a bleeding heart liberal that just wants to help the whole world. But what I realized from a mathematical perspective is the United States, as large as it is and as many natural resources it's blessed with, cannot support 8 billion people. So once you understand that our country cannot support the population of the earth, you have to start setting boundaries and rules as to who we can help. And obviously, Scott, it's common sense. It took a president through Trump to come back and just say it out loud. Make America great again. America first. Mask up first with us. Get your oxygen flowing correctly. Get your oxygen supply right. Get the heart of your nation correct again. And then let's see how we can help the rest of the world. But this will spend for Ukraine, not even a member of the NATO alliance, until the cows come home and whatever it takes. It seems to me like they don't want us in Ukraine for something. What is in Ukraine that the federal government is so determined to not let the American people go in and see? And I think that we'll be hearing a lot from Russia this year on what actually is found in Ukraine.
You're preaching to the choir. And then two last things I'll say is that money should have stipulations. You should be accountable for number one. You should be accountable for where it all goes. All right. They just can't have it willy-nilly and do whatever they want to. And actually, my producer this morning is like, and the accountability should be something like this. Every Wednesday, we want to see you sit down with Putin and work something out, because all we're doing is prolonging agony and wasting money. So there has to be some things attached to it where we just don't hand it over and say, do with what you like.
How about this? How about this, Scott? How about we start putting the federal government expenditures on the blockchain where they cannot be manipulated and the American people can get the transparency they deserve for the first time with their tax dollar. It's our money. And I'm so tired of government officials acting like that.